Uh, Hi, main man. In the My Worst Mistake in Life video, you mentioned that you lived in an outcast apartment building for 6 months. You said that you saw some weird shit there. Could you tell some stories about that time? Well, it's not a lot of, you know, super exciting stuff. Basically, anytime you wanted to use the elevator, someone had shit or pissed in it. Anytime you walked in the staircase, not every time, but a lot of the time, you would find people there passed out. So drug addicts who lived in the building. I don't know how many times I walked the corridors and you'd see them out in the hallway just sitting there doing drugs. I don't know how many times fire trucks stopped by because people were smoking in bed, you know, falling asleep with cigarettes in bed. That's something that used to be a bigger problem if you jump back a couple of decades. But when you live in an apartment building full of addicts, yeah, you'll see some of that. But the worst one was when my... I loved the times I would be asleep and then you'd wake up to someone either pounding on the door, you know, like a horror movie, or, you know, flipping the handle of a door. I woke up like that a couple of times. That was stressful like the first time, but then you got used to it. But the worst thing was when my one of my brothers had actually visited me, you know, and every time you walked into this building, it was like walking into prison because you'd have the main gate and you always had just one key to get in. You were not allowed multiple keys or, of course, codes because the addicts would tell everyone how to get in. So there was always just one physical key, which was annoying when you had to let people in, as there was no phone to let them in, you know. What's it called? Door phone, whatever. That's how it's roughly translated from Swedish to English. But you basically, you use your card to open the main gate, and then you walk up a couple of stairs, you know, to an office or whatever covered in bars. And that's when you, during the day, had to identify yourself to a guard, basically, who would then open the main gate into the apartment building. So the worst thing I saw was basically my youngest brother had visited, and that's brave of him, you know. It's not always fun walking around that building. But there had been this fight because he walked out, and in the stairway there was this huge, and I'm gonna tell you, it's this huge puddle of blood. And he was like, he texted me like, there's a huge puddle of blood here in the staircase. And I was like, oh shit. And I didn't walk out then and there to check it out, but the day after I went there and I looked, and they had sort of cleaned it, but you could tell there had been this huge loss of blood. And I just asked some of the staff, and they told me there had been this big fight, and one dude had, you know, come within one little breath from being killed, like literally killed in a fist fight. So yeah, that was pleasant. Anytime, you know, you in that building, you know, you do your laundry, and that was walking down into the basement where they had the laundry room. And yeah, you never felt like completely... I mean, I wasn't completely stressed out living there, but it was... yeah, once or twice you were worried, to say the least. But that was my first own apartment. I had to get something like super fast after a relationship ending, because I was so dependent on my girlfriend. So I was like, okay, I gotta get something. That's the one thing I could get, you know, without notice and live there, or with short notice and live there for 6 months. But that was a tough A tough 6 months. Not as tough as a worst job I've ever had, which I did for 3 months. That was like a living nightmare. But it was bad. Oh yeah, now I make you curious to hear about the job. Now I worked at different homes for people with mental handicaps and disabilities. So people with very, very severe autism or what's the politically correct term? Intellectually disabled, that sort of thing. And that they had different levels of institutions and homes depending on the severity of a disability. And I worked in total there for 2 years, but for 3 months I was dedicated to the hardest, level 4, absolute hardest clients in that specific facility. And that's the hardest thing I've ever done in terms of work. I've had tough jobs, but that one was very few people last at places like that.